Hi, lovelies. Now, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to summer grilling, the only thing that beats a classic burger are sliders, which are basically mini burgers. And what is not to love about miniature things? Today, I've got 3 awesome takes on sliders that I think you guys are going to love, starting with these amazing French onion sliders that I actually think will change your life. To make these sliders, we are going to start by what I call Frenching some onions. Now, some people would not consider that a verb, but in my world, Frenching onions means basically caramelizing them and then adding all sorts of tasty flavor, sort of reminiscent of a French onion soup. That's the flavor we're going for here. So, to caramelize our onions, we are going to heat up some butter on the stove over medium heat because butter makes everything better. Our butter is sizzling and melted, and that means it is time for lots and lots of onion. We're just going to give these a good toss. And then patience really is a virtue here. Caramelization takes time and cannot be rushed. Trust me, I've tried it. All we're going to do is add some salt to these and then let them cook away, stirring them frequently for between 20 and 30 minutes. Once you've reached maximum caramelization, you can go ahead and add your finishing ingredients. To this, I am adding some beef broth, some Worcestershire sauce, as well as some fresh thyme leaves. I'm going to hit this with even more salt and pepper, and then let this cook away for maybe another 3 to 5 minutes. Basically, what you want is for all that liquid to evaporate so that all that's left is the flavor. And there you have it. We're just going to transfer this to a dish, let it cool completely, and get these beef burgers made. To mix up my burgers, I am starting with 1 pound of ground beef. And to that, we are going to add our gorgeous caramelized onions. They've cooled completely. We don't want them hot when we add them, obviously, because that'll start to cook our burger, which is not at all what we are going for. To that, I'm also going to add some breadcrumbs. So this is basically going to act as a binder and keep everything together. Another binder is going to be our egg. I'm also going to be adding another splash of Worcestershire sauce, which I think just adds a really amazing beefiness. You can hit this with a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper, and then we'll get this all mixed together and start to form our patties. To make sure my patties are uniform, I like to use an ice cream scoop, and then I just form my patties with my hands. One great tip is to add an indentation into the center of each of your burgers with your thumb. The reason I do this is to prevent my burgers from puffing up and getting really thick in the center, which tends to happen. I don't know if you guys have ever made homemade burgers, but you'll notice if you don't put that indentation in, they puff up and they look like little footballs. That's not what you're going for. The indentation really helps to keep them nice and uniform, and it also helps them cook more evenly. Now, I know you have exercised a lot of patience to this point, but you wanna make sure your burgers are nice and cold before they hit the grill, so you'll wanna get them into the fridge for at least 20 minutes before cooking them. Then it will be time to get your grill fired up and to get your burgers on. I like to cook them over medium-high heat. They tend to cook pretty quickly because they are so tiny, which is just great. You can flip them once or twice through the cooking process. And then once they've reached your desired doneness, the final step is going to be adding a slice of Gruyere cheese on top. Of course, what would French onion anything be without a little bit of Gruyere cheese? I like finishing them off with a little more of that French onion mixture, and guys, these are ready to be devoured. They are oh so unbelievably delicious. If you don't believe me, try them for yourselves. I'd love to hear what you think. Next, guys, we're going to be putting together some sliders inspired by buffalo chicken wings. So instead of beef in this recipe, we are using ground chicken, and we are going to add our classic binding ingredients. Similar to what we did in our last recipe, I'm adding some breadcrumbs to that, as well as an egg. Chicken, especially because it doesn't have as much fat, tends to get a bit crumblier, more crumbly. So the binders will really help keep everything together. Then in terms of flavor, we are piling it on, starting with some crumbled blue cheese. Of course, as you probably know, buffalo chicken wings are best served with blue cheese dressing. So getting all of that blue cheese tastiness into these sliders is such a good idea. It wouldn't be buffalo anything, of course, without adding some hot sauce to this. If you want to cut the heat, you can definitely use a combination of half hot sauce and half barbecue sauce. That's also really good and adds just a touch of sweetness. Both are great options. For even more great flavor, I've got a sprinkle of garlic powder headed in, as well as some salt and pepper. And it's really that simple. We're just going to stir this mixture around, get it well combined, and then we will form our patties. Once again, I'm going to add my little indentation into the center to help them cook more evenly. And just like with my beef burgers, I want to let these chill out a little before they hit the grill, so I'm going to get them into the refrigerator, which will give me just enough time to make a really tasty topper for these burgers. As you probably know, buffalo chicken wings are classically served with carrots and celery. So today I am taking that concept a step further by lightly pickling those ingredients to make some celery and carrot pickles, or as I call them, quickles, because we're actually going to be pickling them very quickly, hence the name, quickle. And basically it starts by really thinly slicing our carrots and our celery. We're going to get those into a bowl. And to quickle these, we are going to top them with some apple cider vinegar and a good splash of water. You wanna make sure that all of your veggies are submerged in that mixture. And then we will add some salt and pepper to this. And in just 20 to 30 minutes, your veggies will have softened up a little and you'll have this tasty, pickly flavor. Delicious. You want to pop these into the refrigerator and make them a day in advance. They get even better, so I highly recommend you could go ahead and do that. But let's be honest, we're all pretty hungry, so it's time to get these buffalo chicken sliders on the grill. I like cooking these over medium-high heat, but I also always like to keep the lid down. That way you trap the heat inside and it helps ensure that the exterior and the interior of your burgers cook at the very same time. It's important because these are chicken to cook these to a safe internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. And the best way to know that you've reached that magic temperature, of course, is with the meat thermometer. If you don't have one, you should definitely get one. I will link one in the description box below. Just before removing these burgers from the grill, I think it is very important to brush them with a little more hot sauce. And they are ready to be devoured. I'm going to top them with some of my celery and carrot quickle and a little crumble of blue cheese for good measure. Come on guys, all the goodness of classic buffalo chicken wings, but without the messy fingers. What's not to love? Finally today, we're making some classic veggie sliders that I just can't get enough of lately. Now, if you've ever made a veggie burger, you might know that sometimes they have a hard time staying together on the grill. Often they're too crumbly or too moist, so when you go to flip them, they tend to fall apart. That's why turning your veggie burgers into sliders is such a great idea, because it makes them so much easier to flip. Not to mention, they're absolutely adorable. For these tasty burgers, we are going to be mixing up all of our ingredients in our food processor, starting with some cooked white rice that I've just allowed to cool completely. Next, I'm adding some canned black beans that I've rinsed and drained. I'm also going to be adding some mushrooms to this mixture. I love mushrooms because, of course, they have a nice meaty texture and flavor, perfect in a veggie burger. Then for our binders, we are going to be adding some breadcrumbs to this, as well as 1 egg. Now, if you want to keep these vegan, you always have the option to omit the egg and add a flax egg instead, but you want to make sure you're adding something with a little bit of liquid content to help these bind together. To add some much needed flavor to these veggie burgers, we are going to be adding a combination of barbecue sauce, paprika, onion powder, and some freshly chopped garlic. I'm gonna lick the barbecue sauce off my hands, and then I'm gonna hit this liberally with salt and pepper. On goes the lid, and instead of blending this, we're just gonna pulse it because we really want it to still maintain some of its chunkiness. Once you've got that nice consistency, you can go ahead and remove the mixture from the food processor and start to form your patties. Again, we're creating teeny tiny patties here, and instead of popping these into the refrigerator to set, we're actually going to put them into the freezer. I like keeping them in the freezer for at least 30 minutes before they hit that hot barbecue. It's always a good idea when you're making veggie burgers to cook them from frozen. That is another way to help them stay together on the grill. Then I always recommend cooking them on a well-greased grill over medium to medium-high heat. I like to keep the lid down to ensure that the center gets heated through while the outside gets a bit crispy and delicious and you get those lovely grill marks. If you want to make them even more flavorful, go ahead and finish them off with another brushing of barbecue sauce just before serving. I like serving them with all the classic burger condiments, but of course, the world is your oyster when it comes to things you can top your burger with. These veggie sliders are so delicious that I think even a carnivore would let them slide. Guys, I hope you'll give all 3 of these awesome ideas a try. If you do, be sure to tweet me, Instagram me, or Snapchat me a photo because I love seeing your kitchen creations. Keep in mind, these recipes are in the description box below, as always. And finally, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe because there is lots more deliciousness where this came from.